Hey, welcome to Taylor's Trick-Taking Table. I'm Taylor, and there's a lot of anthropomorphic animal games out there. And since I'm half anthropomorphic animal, the human half, I felt uniquely qualified to talk about it. And you know, they've done everything from build towns, to steal each other, to start world wars. And what's interesting about the game we're covering today, which is for Northwood by Wilhelm Sue, is it is about staving off war. So you're going to be going to different animal kingdoms and trying to convince leaders to not go to war. It's a solo game. It's actually the end of Sol October and the start of Nosotros. It's like Nosotros in November. Nosotros is Spanish for we, so it's going to be team games. And I'll stand by the fact that solo games are team games, a team of one. But so the hook for Northwood is players are going to be trying to hit bids, but as you hit bids, you're going to be kind of getting powers. And the game has different powers to help you maybe manipulate your hand or give you advantages during the trick play. But it's a great game, so let's go to the digital table and I'll show you how to play. The deck in For Northwood is made up of 4 suits numbered 1 through 8. To set up the game, you're going to put the 4 jacks as allies in front of you, and then shuffle the king and queens and place them up at the top here on this row. You're going to have the signpost in the middle, and that's just going to tell you the number of tricks you need to win over that leader. Like the king of claws here will need 4 to win them over. And as you can see, they'll have a power on the bottom and then a suit on the top. Once the game's set up, you'll just shuffle the deck and deal yourself 8 cards. So after you get your cards, you're going to try and decide which of the kingdoms you're going to visit. Looking at my hand here, I have somewhat high cards, and maybe I think I'm going to win a fair amount of tricks, so I'm looking over to the right here. And what's interesting is, as you can see on the cards, there's a suit at the top, and that will indicate, when you go talk to them, what suit is trump. Since I think I'm going to win a fair amount of tricks, and the Queen of Leaves is out here, and I have 3 leaves, which will be trump, let's go visit the Queen of Leaves. So I'm trying to win 6 tricks, and how it works is the deck will always lead to the trick. Before every trick I could use one of these powers, but we'll jump into that later. So the deck will lead. Thematically, this is seen as the ruler making a statement, so they'll lead to the trick, and I have to follow suit, so I'll play this 5. So I won it, so I'll put it in my score pile. If I hadn't won it, like say this was the 6 of leaves, I would have just put it in the discard pile. So I've won that trick, and again, the ruler will lead, and you have to follow suit, so I will also win that one. And as you can see, that's the general flow, is the leader will lead, and you'll follow suit. So before any of these tricks, you can use one and exactly one of these powers. So before a trick, I could optionally use one of these powers. So for example, I could use the Jack of Eyes. Draw 2 cards, then discard 2. If you do, you will exhaust the card and then follow it out. I draw 2, and then I'm gonna discard this one and this one. I guess it doesn't matter if it's face up or face down. How it works is you can only use one of the allies per start of the trick, so I couldn't use another one until the next trick. They will still lead. Maybe I win that one. Jumping ahead a bit, I've noticed I've already actually hit my bid and I'm a little nervous, so maybe I use this power before the next trick where I discard all the cards that match the current ruler's suit. So I can actually get rid, for free, of this trump. Then the ruler leads to the final trick and I'm off suited. And so the round ends when either the deck runs out or you run out of cards. And you see if you hit your bid. So I hit 6, so I got the Queen of Leaves onto my side. And when you convince one of the leaders, you actually pull them down, and as you can see, they scream for Northwood because they're on your side. If at the end I would have actually won the final trick, like with that 8 there, and I was off, instead of pulling the leader down, you would actually flip them upside down to indicate that you did not win them. Then at the end of the hand, you would reshuffle, deal yourself 8 again. You actually get these powers again to try and use possibly on the next hand. If you would have actually won and hit your bid, these leaders that you convince can also be used as supporters for later rounds. So say in this next round, I was trying to go for the King of Flowers with this hand. I can pull in the Queen of Leaves and put them over one of these allies. So instead of using the draw 2 then discard, I could use the Queen of Leaves for this round. So what's interesting is after the hand, maybe I hit this right and I got 5 tricks, this will then just be discarded. What's cool is you have these 4 powers that you always get to use for every single hand, but then you get temporary powers from the used supporters that you convince throughout the game. How you win the game is after you've visited all of the 8 kingdoms. So again, as you can see up here, either you've convinced them to be on your team, or you didn't and they got flipped upside down. And as you can see also, we've used the ability of some of these that we had convinced. After you visited all 8, you'll just remove any of the ones that you didn't use as powers, and you'll flip over all the cards that you won, and you're looking for 3 stars. If you reveal all 3 stars, like in the rules here, you've won. But unfortunately, like here, we only revealed those 2 because it looks like the King of Claws was sitting on the last star. So sadly, we lost this game. Here we have the setup for the advanced game, and as you can see, it's not just the kings and queens and jacks out. There's also the ladies and the dukes, which are more advanced cards. And these are on the other side of the king and queen cards. So when you do setup, you actually just randomly choose which side of the card you want to use. Everything else is the same though. You're still trying to get the 3 stars at the end to win. For the expert game, however, though, it's just like the advanced game. However, you actually immediately flip over any card that you lose. And if it's not a star, you immediately lose the game. So you have to visit all 4 rulers, and if you obviously win them all, you'll win. But if you miss one and flip it over and it's not a star, then you'll lose. So it's just a little bit harder than the basic game. And I think this is what the intended difficulty is. That's, I guess, what it says in the rules. So that is for Northwood, and what a lovely game. Not just because of the production, I think most people do love cute animals, but also the gameplay. Just super smooth, and it has variability and replayability. I love an expert mode in a solo game, especially when with scoring. So it's interesting that the game can kind of satisfy almost every need of a solo game for me, while also still retaining some interesting tactical elements and some trick-taking kind of core DNA that makes it feel like a great solo game and a great trick-taking game. Why it's so great is because it almost solves all the issues from previous games in Solo October, all the solo trick-taking games that we covered. So, like it followed the suit Solitaire, that got a little solvable, and this one, with all the powers and the variability, it can't really do that. Like the Crew, where it felt a little bit too much like a puzzle, this feels like a trick-taker still, with the deck being able to lead and you having to follow suit. It has that tactical nature. And Gungar Whist was great, but it was just so hard that this has a perfect difficulty ramping, especially because it has advanced, expert, and kind of a basic mode. And even with, you know, interesting games that, like Ek, that I think are really sound in their design, you could play them a lot and it would feel a little samey after a while. This one, with all the powers and the cards that are different on front and back, this just felt so different every single time. One of the really smart moves, I think, in the design is that you get 4 kind of powers that you use throughout every hand. And then when you win a favor, or the favor of a kingdom animal, you only get to use that once. So it's nice because you have kind of long-term planning throughout the whole game, those 8 bids, by looking at those 4 power cards and realizing, oh, these are what I have every single time. So you can make long-term plans about that, and then you can kind of go for maybe the kingdoms that the powers seem useful maybe for harder bids or softer bids. So there's, even though the trick play is maybe a little more tactical and quick and in short bursts, there is really interesting strategic long-term plannings with all the different animals in the power setup. And this may just be me, but I also want to give the game bonus points for something that can just be expanded upon indefinitely. Like if you really, really like this game, you can just get new powers or new animals with different abilities on them. I do love games like Ek, or games that are complete and whole, and I think a lot of trick-taking does have that. I don't think there's many trick-taking expansions. That'd be an interesting month in the future. But this game just gets bonus points for having the options to grow so much. I know there's going to be a published version of this coming out soon, and it'd be cool to see them kind of grow and run with this game and really make it robust. But as it is, I think it's perfect, and I think what cards are available have a ton of staying power. What's cool is that the powers give a lot of flexibility in the hand, maybe more so than any of the ones we've covered today. And I love that flexibility, I love that choice in a solo trick taker where it feels like a puzzle. You know you can always succeed in your goal if you put in the right elements. So that is for Northwood, and I think this is the best solo trick taker that I've played. From early ramp on, because it has the beginner and intro variants, to scoring and expert variants, even the variability and just the general flow of what I've noticed a lot of solo trick takers have is the whist style, the deck leads. So you can kind of get a sense of what solo trick takers do a lot of. This is just a perfect intro. And the art and the presentation helps so much with that. So I'm definitely going to give it the seal. And thanks so much for watching.